week's episode of Inspired Writing. I'm Suzy Vadori, and I'm so excited to share this with you. It is the first episode of 2021, and of course, we're going to talk about goal setting. I have an inbox full of people trying to tell me how to set my goals this year, and I had to dig really deep here. I want to share with you what my process is, because if there's one thing that I'm known for, it is getting things done. And 2020 was no exception for me. As I was sitting there in the beginning of March, I watched as one by one all of the speaking engagements that I worked really hard to do, to book. All my tour dates were being canceled, all the events I was planning to speak at where I was going to get to meet writers and teach writing and do all of those cool things and talk about my books were disappearing one by one. And I took a moment and I took a deep breath and I figured out a way to salvage this year, and I used my tried and true method of goal setting that I've honed over 20 years of working in business before I ever became a writer. And I'm going to share that here with you today. And you're in the right place, whether you're just getting started on your writing journey or whether you've got a few books published already. I want to be here to support your writing journey and explain to you how I had to adapt my goal setting process once I started doing things that were more creative. Because nothing ever turns out exactly as planned. And if you just lived through that same year that I did, you've got to be telling yourself the same thing. But if you're a writer, maybe you've also created an outline and then you start writing and you get going and your characters do something completely different that you didn't expect. And that happens all of the time. So I think that we as creatives are actually in a particularly good place to pivot with the changing circumstances of the world. And if you're listening to this video, it's probably because you have big dreams this year for your writing goals, and I want to help make sure that you achieve them. The first thing that I do when goal setting is I make sure that those goals are in small enough chunks that I can actually do them in a reasonable amount of time and do a little check mark and celebrate the wins. I like to plan things out quarterly, which is in 3-month chunks, and I highly recommend that you do that with your writing life as well. Your creative life needs a particular care, and there's 3 different areas that I like to focus on when I create those quarterly goals. The first thing that I want you to think about, the 3 different areas for each quarter, the first thing that I want you to consider is, what are your productivity goals? Now, these are the goals that most people come up with. Okay, I want to finish my book. I want to finish that edit. I want to get to writing 10 pages a week, or whatever those productivity goals are. Those are really, really common in writing, and we need those productivity goals to actually write forward, and we need to have those goals set for ourselves. And so that is the what. That is the what of what you'd like to achieve, and that's super important. So take a minute and write those what's down. Maybe you want to get your query out. Maybe you want to have your first manuscript edited. Maybe you're ready to approach an agent. Maybe you want to finish a book that is already contracted. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, the area that I want you to also think about when you're planning your goals is actually learning your craft and moving your craft forward every time that you sit down to talk about your goals in writing, because we're always getting better. And no matter how many books I write, I make sure that each book I'm using different techniques to challenge myself, both because it becomes more interesting, but because it makes me a better writer and it makes me able to help you better as writers as well. So no matter where you are in your writing journey, challenge yourself in the next 3 months to something, okay, to up your writing game. There's a number of ways that you can do this. You can take a course, you can join a critique group, you can hire the best editor you can. Please, please, please hire the best editor that you can afford to do, that you can find actually. And work with a coach is another way of doing that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can up your writing game, but set a particular goal. When I start a new project, I like to maybe write in a new perspective or try to write in a different style. So set something for yourself in the next 3 months to learn your craft and keep getting better at writing, because there's always something to learn to help you connect with your readers and to make a better book. And the third and final area that I want you to set your goals for in the next 3 months of 2021, because let's face it, it's really hard to look at the end of 2021 right now. It's a long ways off, and who knows what's going to be in store. Hopefully this will all be a distant past, what's happening in the world by the end. But in the next 3 months, I want you to take a moment and set some creative space. Set some goals that are about your creative mindset, because that's the one that we overlook. And so if we talked about the productivity goals, which are your what, we talked about your craft goals, which are how you're going to get there. Don't forget about the why, okay? And your creative goals. It's not always there sometimes. If you go to sit down, so you can say, I want to write 10 pages a week, and then you go to sit down and you got nothing, or you're at the end of your rope, or you haven't performed the self-care that you need to be in that headspace. So you got to look after yourselves as creatives, right? It's really, really important to look after yourself, to find that moment when you are your most creative and nurture that, and to surround yourself with things that you find inspiration. So every quarter, I want you to take a look at, or for right now, sit down, make 3 different goals for yourself in the next 3 months, and make sure that you address all three things. Your productivity, so what do you want to achieve? What are you going to finish in the next 3 months? And be reasonable. If you are working a full-time job and running a family and doing all of those things, be kind to yourself. Don't measure yourself against anybody else. Your book will get written in the time that it needs to get written. Keep moving forward, keep making progress, and it will come. Set your craft goals, okay? Learn your craft, hone your craft. Find different ways. You're watching this vlog right now, so make sure there's always things that you can learn. So continue to learn as you go along, and then set some goals or intentions for your creativity. Okay, make sure you're looking after yourself this year more than ever. Set that space, put aside the time, and allow yourself to be creative, and put that as part of your goals, because it's way more than just including your productivity. And I promise you, if you do that every 3 months, you sit down and you measure yourself against what you had planned to do and what you were able to achieve, and you're adaptable, these things can change. And I don't know what's coming. I am not a mind reader. I don't know what's coming this year. But if you're able to be flexible and you keep those 3 things in mind, you will continue to move forward towards your goal of finishing the book that's exploding in your mind, getting it onto the page, and getting it into readers' hands the way that you want to. So I'd love to hear from you guys what your intentions are for 2021. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now.